I wrote about this over the weekend and had a little bit of back and forth on our message board about it. CJ Stroud's tumble is interesting to me, and we wouldn't talk about this probably if Ohio State didn't play Georgia in the Peach Bowl. But it's just fascinating to me to see the NFL draft process play out and linger and delay as long as it does, because I think in a lot of situations it only hurts guys like CJ Stroud. You've seen these negative stories come out about how he, blew off an opportunity to go to a Manning camp. To me, who cares about that? But any red flag for a quarterback is a massive red flag. And now we've seen Will Levis, who, couldn't find any kind of support, any kind of friend early in this NFL draft process, to now he's passing CJ Stroud because Stroud is taking this tumble. But guys, when I saw CJ Stroud play against Georgia's defense, he looked like a guy who could be not just a competent NFL quarterback, but a first-round draft pick. And it's the flip side of the coin of what I say about Anthony Richardson. If you want to really get a true test of how ready a quarterback could be in the NFL, and I know it's just a one-game sample size, and I didn't watch every single CJ Stroud game this year, and I know this game against Georgia in particular was kind of an outlier for what he did. But I do know that my eyes did not deceive me. That guy was a baller against a really good defense. And Anthony Richardson has not been a baller against Georgia's defense in 2 opportunities. So that's something that I can't wrap my mind around right now.
Yeah, no question. And Palmer said it. Yeah, neither has Will Levis, right? I mean, CJ Stroud played essentially what was a professional team at the end of the day by how many of these dudes will get drafted off of this Georgia team, and took him to the brink. And I agree with you 100,000%, Wes. People know that I'm a football guy. They ask me all the time, what do you think they should do? I think CJ Stroud should be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. I think that he has all the measurables. I think he's put it on tape. I get people have a knock against Ohio State quarterbacks to some degree because they are surrounded by very elite weapons. Brian Hartline creates an outstanding receiver room for them to throw to. But that kid played as well against Georgia as anybody I've seen in the last probably 10 years. And, if not for a botched kick, now I'm not saying, Georgia there was some missed holding throughout the whole game.
Oh, for sure.
But if not for a botched kick, Georgia's not back there, and it would not. And that's not on CJ Stroud to kick that football.
Well,
he did everything he could have.
You said that you would take him 1, and that he's played as good against Georgia. The best against Georgia that you've seen in quite some time. Turn on the 2021 SEC championship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any qualms with Bryce or
I'm with
Stroud.
It. Yeah, I'm not hating on Bryce Young. To me, though, if we're talking about, like I said, to me, it's a combination of both things. It's what he put on tape plus the measurables, which is what everybody in the NFL drools over, right? CJ Stroud has the more desirable frame, which you believe will hold up over the longer course of time, et cetera, et cetera. That, to me, is what puts Stroud the notch above Bryce Young.
I don't think you can miss with either of them. And I think there's a reason why, throughout this entire process up until, those C2, S2.
Yeah, the S2 is the thing that's being held against him now. Yeah. And I had to read up on that. It's not just the Wonderlic where you're just measuring your overall, intelligence, your cognition.
It's not an SAT or ACT.
No, it's how fast do you gather information and then make a decision based on it. And I wouldn't even invite me to the test.
I would be interested, and I will be interested to see, because this is one of the earlier years that they've been using that over the Wonderlic. I'll be curious to see how those scores start to translate to on the field, because there is something to be said about the ability to, read and react type, to things that you see out there. But, I think that, what I was saying was those two, CJ and Bryce, have been the top 2 quarterbacks through this entire process. And I think, Georgia has gotten to see the top 5 quarterbacks, probably the first 5 quarterbacks that get picked in this draft. They've gotten to see each of them in the last 2 years, between Stroud, Young,
Hooker,
Levis, Hooker, and Richardson. And 2 of them have played really well against Georgia. 3 of them have not. And I think, when you're, you can see how good Georgia has been based on what they've done and what they've turned out to the pros. Those guys played really well against those, pro, filled teams. So I think that they're the top 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah. Look, you can't just make these decisions based on one game. Guys play lights out. They catch a heater and they go on a tear, and they're not as good in their career as they were in that one game. But I think all of us who watch Georgia's defense know that if you get a guy that's able to break through that seal a little bit, he's probably having a pretty good game, and it's probably not just a flash in the pan. You got to be a dude. I mean, you really do. And just because you don't doesn't mean that you can't play well. For me, that's why I single out Anthony Richardson as opposed to Hendon Hooker, because Anthony Richardson's had, two really good shots. And, Georgia's defense against Hooker in Knoxville was a totally different beast. They got him benched, but Richardson just looked lost against Georgia when it mattered most. So I understand his measurables are what they are. And when you're a scout and you see him in person, I know it's probably hard to say, yeah, we wouldn't be interested in that guy. But Stroud and Bryce Young are clearly, when you look at what they did against Georgia and you want to think about how that translates to the NFL, man, they are different. They are built different for sure.